Hello. Hello, Everest. Are you Wi-Fi shoddy? Hello, Hugh. Yes. And hello, everyone, and VOD watchers. Yeah, you'll be in because your Wi-Fi is shoddy. Okay. I just. Oh, that's a bit loud. I just want to say I've recently dropped the bit rate of the stream a little bit down to 55 or 5500. Love seeing Diamond Badge. Oh. Well, you were the first person who was on stream, like who chatted to me live. So yeah. So Everest gets VIP. Yes. So camera's a little bit. I'm gonna have to do some camera adjustments at some point. Anyway, I hope everyone's well. Love being first. Well, I am glad. Wish you could sub. That's okay. You don't have to sub. Nobody has to sub. This is I stream for me and to entertain, and also to speak. Really, that's why I read, so that I can do a lot of speaking and practice speech. So it's not like a job or anything. Wouldn't mind it being a job, but but it's not something that I require. Oh my goodness. Yes, everyone had fun at DreamHack over the weekend. I did not go to DreamHack, of course, because I'm in Brisbane, but you used to stream to improve your English speaking skills. That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a very good idea. But yes, all the lovelies kept me up to date and sent me photos and were like, wishing you were here. I'm just like, so many pictures and things, and B told me what was going on and things like that, and I just I loved seeing all of the pictures and things. So DreamHack looked like a lot of fun, and hopefully maybe I could go next year. Oh, just bumped my own microphone. That's good. Well done, Salty. I'm a little bit sick today. I don't know what. I've just been took Missy to the vet this morning with Dad, and I just felt a bit faint this morning. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but hopefully it'll be okay tomorrow. Hope one day you can go to a TwitchCon type event someday after you start saving up. Manifesting. Yeah. Apparently the tickets to Australia is like just over $2,000. I'm just like, whoa, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. But Australia is so far away, which is, in some cases it's very good, some cases it's very bad. Virtual healing, thank you, Everest. I appreciate that. Yes, I just I had a few hours sleep in the middle of the day, and yes, and then Missy is okay, doggo. She has been to the vet, and she is getting old. She's very old. She's 16, which is old for a dog. But she's had her shots now, and I bought her some more food online and worming tablets and all that, so that's good. What else? I'm not. Oh yes, I've been playing a bit of Noita, which is sort of a pixel art game where you're a witch and you have to traverse this maze, and they don't give you any instructions about why you're there. You just are put in the game, and then you just have to work it out for yourself. And it is a frustrating experience. 2,000 AU will get me a flight from Kenya to Bangladesh. That's quite a way. Yeah. Plane's pretty much the only way to travel these days, if you want to get anywhere. Unless you get a job on a boat that is going where you're going. Do they include other perks as well, along with the ticket price, or just the ticket? Oh, this was, I think Cadmos Tech was looking up one of Ari's other, CAD. CAD was looking up tickets, so I don't know what sort of ticket that was. I just know that it was around 2,000. Okay, so we're starting off in the middle of a chapter because last week I ran out of steam. So, Across the Nightingale Floor is a Japanese-esque book. It's not set in Japan, it's set in a fictional country like Japan. And it seems to me that a lot of these books, like set in, like the sort of a Tokugawa-esque era in Japan, like it's very similar to a lot of like English sort of books, except the social customs are way stricter. By English, I mean like English aristocracy. There's always a lord or a king, and there's always like his not royal, but his noble underlings. And then there's always the serfs as well. And it's always just sort of their struggles within the rigid society. I'm just looking through the book. Okay, so in short, Lord Shigeru, one of the lords of the Otori, basically adopted a random kid who he found in the forest, who was running away from his mortal enemy, and he thought, okay, this kid's, I'm going to adopt this kid. Because he saw this kid looked like his dead brother, so he adopted him. And it turns out this child is in fact a lot more than he seemed. So now I think I'll go back to where this man Kenji started talking to Lord Shigeru about Teiko, who they're calling Teiko. And yes, so basically it's a bit of a, what do you call it? A bit of an info dump, but the conversation, and you learn a bit about Kenji as well. Where is he? Okay, so Teiko was angry that this man Kenji had given him the slip and given the guards the slip, and was suddenly on the top floor of the house talking to Lord Shigeru, and evidently they are old friends. And basically they had a good laugh about how angry Teiko was that he had been deceived and this guy slipped through the security. They both roared with laughter and slapped the matting with open palms. By the way, Shigeru, you should train your guards better. Teiko was right to be angry with them. Excuse me. Okay. He was right all along, Lord Shigeru said, a note of pride in his voice. He's one in a thousand, the sort that's born, not made. He has to be from the tribe. Sit up, Teiko. Let me look at you. I lifted my head from the floor and sat back on my heels. My face was burning. I felt the man had tricked me after all. He said nothing, just studied me quietly. Lord Shigeru said, "This is Muto Kenji, an old friend of mine." "Lord Muto," I said, polite but cold, determined not to let my feelings show. "You don't have to call me Lord," Kenji said. "I am not a lord, though I number a few among my friends." He leaned towards me. "Show me your hands." He took each hand in turn, looking back and then at the palm. "We think him like Takeshi," Lord Shigeru said. Takeshi was Lord Shigeru's dead brother. He has the look of the Otori about him." Kenji moved back to his original position and gazed over the garden. The last of the colour had leached from it. Only the maples still glowed red. "The news of your loss saddened me," he said. "I thought I no longer wanted to live," Lord Shigeru replied. "But the weeks pass and I find that I do. I am not made for despair." "No, indeed," Kenji agreed with affection. They both looked out through the open windows. The air was chill with autumn. A gust of wind shook the maples, and leaves fell into the stream, turning darker red in the water before they were swept into the river. I thought longingly of the hot bath and shivered. Kenji broke the silence. "Why is this boy, who looks like Takeshi, but is obviously from the tribe, living in your household, Shigeru?" "Why have you come all this way to ask me?" he replied, smiling slightly. "I don't mind telling you. News on the wind was that someone heard an intruder climbing into your house. As a result, one of the most dangerous assassins in the 3 countries is dead." "We have tried to keep it secret," Lord Shigeru said. "It's our business to find out such secrets. What was Shintaro doing in your house?" "Presumably he came to kill me," Lord Shigeru replied. "So it was Shintaro." "I had my suspicions, but we had no proof." After a moment he added, "Someone must truly desire my death. Was he hired by Aida?" "He had worked for the Tohan for some time, but I don't think Aida would have you assassinated in secret. By all accounts, he would rather watch the event with his own eyes. Who else wants you dead?" "I can think of 1 or 2, the Lord answered. "It was hard to believe that Shintaro failed," Kenji went on. We had to find out who the boy was. Where did you find him? What do you hear on the wind? Lord Shigeru countered, still smiling. The official story, of course. That he's a distant relative of your mother's, from the superstitious. That you took leave of your senses and believe he's your brother returned to you. And from the cynical, that he's your son, got with some peasant woman in the East. Lord Shigeru laughed. I'm not even twice his age. I would have had to have fathered him at 12. He's not my son. No. Why am I so itchy? No, obviously. And despite his looks, I don't believe he's a relative or a revenant. Anyway, he has to be from the tribe. Where did you find him? One of the maids, Haruka, came and lit the lamps, and immediately a large blue-green moon moth blundered into the room and flapped towards the flame. I stood and took it in my hand, felt its powdery wings beat against my palm, and released it into the night, sliding the screens closed before I sat again. Lord Shigeru made no reply to Kenji, and then Haruka returned with tea. Kenji did not seem angry or frustrated. He admired the tea bowls, which were of the simple, pink-hued local ware, and drank without saying any more, but watching me all the time. Finally, he asked me a direct question. Tell me, Teiko, when you were a child, did you pull the shells off of living snails or tear the claws from crabs? I didn't understand the question. Maybe, I said, pretending to drink, even though my bowl was empty. Did you? No. Why not? My mother told me it was cruel. I thought so. His voice had taken on a note of sadness, as though he pitied me. No wonder you've been trying to fend me off, Shigeru. I felt a softness in the boy, an aversion to cruelty. He was raised among the hidden. Hidden. Is it so obvious? Lord Shigeru said. Only to me. Kenji sat cross-legged, eyes narrowed, one arm resting on his knee. I think I know who he is. Lord Shigeru sighed, and his face became still and wary. Then you had better tell us. He has all the signs of being Kikuta. The long fingers, the straight line across the palm, the acute hearing. It comes on suddenly around puberty, sometimes accompanied by loss of speech, usually temporary, sometimes permanent. You're making this up, I said, unable to keep silent any longer. In fact, a sort of horror was creeping over me. I knew nothing of the tribe, except that the assassin had been one of them, but I felt as if Muto Kenji were opening a dark door before me that I dreaded entering. Lord Shigeru shook his head. Let him speak. It is of great importance. Kenji leaned forward and spoke directly to me. I am going to tell you about your father. Lord Shigeru said dryly, You'd better start with the tribe. Teiko does not know what you mean when you say he is obviously Kikuta. Is that so? Kenji raised one eyebrow. Well, I suppose if he was brought up by the hidden, I shouldn't be surprised. I'll begin at the beginning. The 5 families of the tribe have always existed. They were there before the lords and the clans. They go back to a time when magic was greater than the strength of arms, and the gods still walked the earth. When the clans sprang up, and men formed allegiances based on might, the tribe did not join any of them. To preserve their gifts, they took to the roads and became travellers, actors and acrobats, peddlers and magicians. They may have done so in the beginning, Lord Shigeru interrupted, but many also became merchants, amassing considerable wealth and influence. He said to me, Kenji himself runs a very successful business in soybean products, as well as money lending. Times have become corrupt, Kenji said. As the priests tell us, we are in the last days of the law. I was talking about an earlier age. These days, it's true, we are involved in business. From time to time, we may serve one or other of the clans and take its crest, or work for those who have befriended us, like Lord Otori Shigeru. But whatever we have become, we preserve the talents from the past, which once all men had but have now forgotten. You were in 2 places at once, I said. The guards saw you outside, while I saw you in the garden. Kenji bowed ironically to me. We can split ourselves and leave the second self behind. We can become invisible and move faster than the eye can follow. Acuteness of vision and hearing are other traits. The tribe have retained these abilities through dedication and hard training, and they are abilities that others in this warring country find useful and pay highly for. Most members of the tribe become spies or assassins at some stage in their life. I was concentrating on trying not to shiver. My blood seemed to have drained out of me. I remembered how I had seemed to split in half beneath Aida's sword, and all the sounds of the house, the garden, and the city beyond rang with increasing intensity in my ears. Kikuta Isamu, who I believe was your father, was no exception. His parents were cousins, and he combined the strongest gifts of the Kikuta. By the time he was 30, he was a flawless assassin. No one knows how many he killed. Most of the deaths seemed natural, and were never attributed to him. Even by the standards of the Kikuta, he was secretive. He was a master of poisons, in particular, certain mountain plants that kill while leaving no trace. He was in the mountains of the east. You know the district I mean, seeking new plants. The men in the village where he was lodging were hidden. It seems they told him about their secret god, the command not to kill, the judgment that awaits you in the afterlife. You know it all, I don't need to tell you. In those remote mountains, far from the feuds of the clans, Isamu had been taking stock of his life. Perhaps he was filled with remorse. Perhaps the dead called out to him. Anyway, he renounced his life with the tribe and became one of the hidden. And was executed? Lord Shigeru spoke out of the gloom. Well, he broke the fundamental rules of the tribe. We don't like being renounced like that, especially not by someone with such great talents. That sort of ability is all too rare these days. But to tell the truth, I don't know what exactly happened to him. I didn't even know he had a child. Takeo, or whatever his real name is, must have been born after his father's death. Who killed him? I said, my mouth dry. Who knows? There were many who wanted to, and one of them did. Of course, no one could have got near him if he had not taken a vow never to kill again. There was a long silence. Apart from a small pool of light from the glowing lamp, it was almost completely dark in the room. I could not see their faces, though I was sure Kenji could see mine. Did your mother never tell you this? He asked eventually. I shook my head. There is so much that the hidden don't tell, so much they keep secret, even from each other. What isn't known can't be revealed under torture. If you don't know your brother's secrets, you cannot betray him. Kenji laughed. Admit it, Shigeru. You had no idea who you were bringing into your household. Not even the tribe knew of his existence. A boy with all the latent talent of the Kikuta. Lord Shigeru did not reply, but as he leaned forward into the lamplight, I could see he was smiling, cheerful and open-hearted. I thought, what a contrast there was between the two men, the Lord so open, Kenji so devious and tricky. I need to know how this came about. I'm not talking idly with you, Shigeru. I need to know. Kenji's voice was insistent. I could hear Chiyo fussing on the stairs. Lord Shigeru said, We must bathe and eat. After the meal, we'll talk again. He will not want me in his house, now that he knows I'm the son of an assassin. This was the first thought that came to me as I sat in the hot water, after the older men had bathed. I could hear their voices from the upper room. They were drinking wine now, and reminiscing idly about the past. Then I thought about the father I had never known, and felt a deep sadness that he had not been able to escape his background. He had wanted to give up the killing, but it would not give him up. It had reached out its long arms and found him, as far away as Mino, just as years later Aida had sought out the hidden there. I looked at my own long fingers. Was that what they were designed for? To kill? Whatever I had inherited from him, I was also my mother's child. I was woven from two strands that could hardly be less alike, and both called to me through blood, muscle, and bone. I remembered, too, my fury at the guards. I knew I had been acting then as their lord. Was this to be a third strand in my life, or would I be sent away now that Lord Shigeru knew who I was? The thoughts became too painful, too difficult to unravel. And anyway, Chiyo was calling to me to come and eat. The water had warmed me at last, and I was hungry. Ichiro had joined Lord Shigeru and Kenji, and the trays were already set out before them. They were discussing trivial things when I arrived. The weather, the design of the garden, my poor learning skills, and generally bad behavior. Ichiro was still displeased with me for disappearing that afternoon. It seemed like weeks ago that I had swum in the freezing autumn river with Fumio. The food was even better than usual, but only Ichiro enjoyed it. Kenji ate fast. The Lord hardly touched anything. I was alternately hungry and nauseated, both dreading and longing for the end of the meal. Ichiro ate so much and so slowly that I thought he would never be through. Twice we seemed to be finished, when he took just another tiny mouthful. At last he patted his stomach and belched quietly. He was about to embark on another long gardening discussion, but Lord Shigeru made a sign to him. With a few parting comments and a couple more jokes to Kenji about me, he withdrew. Haruka and Chio came to clear away the dishes. When they had left, their footsteps and voices fading away to the kitchen, Kenji sat forward, held his hand out, palm open towards Lord Shigeru. "Well," he said. I wished I could follow the women. Try that again. I wished I could follow the women. I didn't want to be sitting here while these men decided my fate. For that was what? Oh. For that was what it would come to, I was sure. Kenji must have come to claim me in some way for the tribe, and Lord Shigeru would surely be only too happy now to let me go. I don't know why this information is so important to you, Kenji, Lord Shigeru said. I find it hard to believe that you don't know it all already. If I tell you, I trust it will go no further. Even in this house, no one knows but Ichiro and Chio. You were right when you said I did not know whom I had brought into my house. It all happened by chance. It was late in the afternoon. I had strayed somewhat out of my path and was hoping to find lodging for the night in the village that I later discovered was called Mino. I had been travelling alone for some weeks after Takeshi's death. You were seeking revenge? Kenji asked quietly. You know how things are between Aida and myself, how they have been since Yagahara. Hello, Uncle Maui, how are you doing? The saltiest chimkin year. I'm so salty. You know how they have been since Yagahara. But I could hardly have hoped to come upon him in that isolated place. It was purely the strangest of coincidences that we two, the most bitter enemies,
Take a fucking sip, babes.
should have been there on the same day.
Julie, do the thing!
Certainly if I had met Aida there, I would have sought to kill him. But this boy ran into me on the path instead. Thank you, Uncle Maui. I have stretch. No worries, Uncle Maui. Thanks for popping in. Okay. But this boy ran into me on the path instead. He briefly told of the massacre, Aida's fall from the horse, the men pursuing me. It happened on the spur of the moment. The men threatened me. They were armed. I defended myself. Did they know who you were? Probably not. I was in travelling clothes, unmarked. It was getting dark, raining. But you knew they were Tohan. They told me Aida was after the boy. That was enough to make me want to protect him. Kenji said, as though changing the subject. I've heard Aida is seeking a formal alliance with the Otori. It's true. My uncles are in favour of making peace, although the clan itself is divided. If Aida learns you have the boy, the alliance will never go forward. There is no need to tell me things I already know, the Lord said with the first flash of anger. Lord Otori, Kenji said, in his ironic way, and bowed. For a few moments, no one spoke. Then Kenji sighed. Well, the fates decide our lives, no matter what we think we are planning. Whoever sent Shintaro against you, the result is the same. Within a week, the tribe knew of Takeo's existence. Takeo? Yeah. I have to tell you that we have an interest in this boy, which we will not relinquish. I said, my voice sounding thin in my own ears. Lord Otori saved my life, and I will not leave him. He reached out and patted me on the shoulders as a father might. I'm not giving him up, he said to Kenji. We want, above all, to keep him alive, Kenji replied. While it seems safe, he can stay here. There is one other concern, though. The Tohan you met on the mountain. Presumably you killed them? One, at least, Lord Shigeru replied. Possibly two. One, Kenji corrected him. Lord Shigeru raised his eyebrows. You know all the answers already. Why do you bother asking? I need to fill in certain gaps and know how much you know. 1, 2, what does it matter? The man who lost his arm survived. His name is Ando. He's long been one of Aida's closest men. I remembered the wolfish man who had pursued me up the path, and could not help shivering. He did not know who you were, and does not yet know where Takeo is. But he is looking for you both. With Aida's permission, he has devoted himself to the quest for revenge. I look forward to our next meeting, Lord Shigeru replied. Kenji stood and paced around the room. When he sat down, his face was open and smiling, as though we had done nothing all evening save exchange jokes and talk about gardens. It's good, he said. Now that I know exactly what danger Takeo is in, I can set about protecting him, and teaching him to protect himself. Then he did something that astonished me. He bowed to the floor before me and said, While I am alive, you will be safe. I swear it to you. I thought he was being ironic, but some disguise slipped from his face, and for a moment I saw the true man beneath. I might have seen Yato come alive. But then the cover slipped back, and Kenji was joking again. But you have to do exactly what I tell you. He grinned at me. I gather Ichiro finds you too much. He shouldn't be bothered by cubs like you at his age. I will take over your education. I will be your teacher. He drew his robe around him with a fussy movement and pursed his lips, instantly becoming the gentle old man I had left outside the gate. That is, if Lord Otori will graciously permit it. I don't seem to have any choice, Lord Shigeru said, and poured more wine, smiling his open-hearted smile. My eyes flicked from one face to the other. Again I was struck by the contrast between them. I thought I saw in Kenji's eyes a look that was not quite scorn, but close to it. Now I know the ways of the tribe so intimately. I know their weakness is arrogance. They become infatuated with their own amazing skills and underestimate those of their antagonists. But at that moment, Kenji's look just angered me. Shortly after that, the maids came to spread out the beds and put out the lamps. For a long time I lay sleepless, listening to the sounds of the night. The evening's revelations marched slowly through my mind, scattered, reformed, and marched past again. My life no longer belonged to me. But for Lord Shigeru, I would be dead now. If he had not run into me by accident, as he said, on the mountain path. Was it really by accident? Everyone, even Kenji, accepted his version. It had all happened on the spur of the moment. The running boy, the threatening men, the fight. I relived it all in my mind, and I seemed to recall a moment when the path ahead was clear. There was a huge tree, a cedar, and someone stepped out from behind it and seized me, not by accident, but deliberately. I thought of Lord Shigeru and how little I really knew about him. Everyone took him at face value, impulsive, warm-hearted, generous. I believed him to be all these things, but I couldn't help wondering what lay beneath. I'm not giving him up, he had said. But why would he want to adopt one of the tribe, the son of an assassin? I thought of the heron, and how patiently it waited before it struck. The sky was lightening, and the roosters were crowing before I slept. The guards had a lot of fun at my expense when Muto Kenji was installed as my teacher. Watch out for the old man, Takeo. He's pretty dangerous. He might stab you with the brush. It was a joke they never seemed to tire of. I learned to say nothing. Better they should think me an idiot than they should know and spread abroad the old man's real identity. It was an early lesson for me. The less people think of you, the more they will reveal to you, or in your presence. I began to wonder how many blank-faced, seemingly dull-witted but trustworthy servants or retainers were really from the tribe, carrying out their work of intrigue, subterfuge, and sudden death. Kenji initiated me into the arts of the tribe, but I still had lessons from Ichiro in the ways of the clans. The warrior class was the complete opposite of the tribe. They set great store by the admiration and respect of the world and their reputation and standing in it. I had to learn their history and etiquette, courtesies and language. I studied the archives of the Otori going back for centuries, all the way to their half-mythical origins in the emperor's family, until my head was reeling with names and genealogies. The days shortened, the nights grew colder. The first frosts rimmed the garden. Soon the snow would shut off the mountain passes, winter storms would close the port, and Hagi would be isolated until spring. The house had a different song now, muffled, soft, and sleeping. Something had unlocked a mad hunger in me for learning. Kenji said it was the character of the tribe surfacing after years of neglect. It embraced everything, from the most complex characters in writing to the demands of swordplay. These I learned wholeheartedly, but I had a more divided response to Kenji's lessons. I did not find them difficult. They came all too naturally to me, but there was something about them that repelled me, something within me that resisted becoming what he wanted me to be. "It's a game," he told me many times. "Play it like a game." But it was a game whose end was death. Kenji had been right in his reading of my character. I had been brought up to abhor murder, and I had a deep reluctance to take life. He studied that aspect of me. It made him uneasy. He and Lord Shigeru often talked about ways to make me tougher. "He has all the talents, save that one," Kenji said one evening in frustration. "And that lack makes all his talents a danger to him." "You never know," Shigeru replied. "When the situation arises, it is amazing how the sword leaps into the hand, almost as though it has a will of its own." "You were born that way, Shigeru, and all your training has reinforced it. My belief is that Takeo will hesitate in that moment." The Lord grunted, moving closer to the brazier and pulling his coat around him. Brazier? That's the right one, isn't it? Brazier, not brazier. Brazier. Snow had been falling all day. It lay piled in the garden, each tree coated, each lantern wearing a thick white cap. The sky had cleared, and frost made the snow sparkle. Our breath hung in the air as we spoke. Nobody else was awake, just the three of us, huddled round the brazier, warming our hands on the cups of hot wine. It made me bold enough to ask, "Lord Otori must have killed many men?" "I don't know that I've kept account," he replied, "but apart from Yegahara, probably not so very many. I have never killed an unarmed man, or killed for pleasure, as some are corrupted into. Better you should stay the way you are than come to that." I wanted to ask, "Would you use an assassin to get revenge?" but I did not dare. It was true that I disliked cruelty and shrank from the idea of killing. But every day I learnt more about Shigeru's desire for revenge. It seemed to seep from him into me, where it fed my own desire. That night I slid open the screens in the early hours of the morning and looked out over the garden. The waning moon and a single star lay close together in the sky, so low that they looked as if they were eavesdropping on the sleeping town. The air was knife cold. I could kill, I thought. I could kill Aida. And then I will kill him. I will learn how. A few days after that, I surprised Kenji and myself. His ability to be in two places at once still fooled me. I'd see the old man in his faded robe, sitting, watching me while I practiced some sleight of hand or backwards tumble, and then his voice would call me from outside the building. But this time I felt or heard his breath, jumped towards him, caught him round the neck, and had him on the ground before I even thought, "Where is he?" And to my amazement, my hands went of their own accord to the spot on the artery in the neck where pressure brings death. I had him there for only a moment. I let go, and we stared at each other. "Well," he said, "that's more like it." I looked at my long-fingered, clever hands as if they belonged to a stranger. My hands did other things I had not known they could do. When I was practicing writing with Ichiro, my right hand would suddenly sketch a few strokes, and there would be one of my mountain birds about to fly off the paper, or the face of someone I did not know I remembered. Ichiro cuffed me around the head for it, but the drawings pleased him, and he showed them to Lord Shigeru. He was delighted, and so was Kenji. "It's a Kikuta trait," Kenji boasted, as proud as if he'd invented it himself. "Very useful. It gives Takeo a role to play, a perfect disguise. He's an artist. He can sketch in all sorts of places, and no one will wonder what he can hear." Lord Shigeru was equally practical. "Draw the one-armed man," he commanded. The wolfish face seemed to jump of its own accord from the brush. Lord Shigeru stared at it. "I'll know him again," he muttered. A drawing master was arranged, and through the winter days, my new character evolved. By the time the snow melted, Tomasu, the half-wild boy who roamed the mountain and read only its animals and plants, was gone forever. I had become Takeo, quiet, outwardly gentle, an artist, somewhat bookish, a disguise that hid the ears and eyes that missed nothing, and the heart that was learning the lessons of revenge. I did not know if this Takeo was real or just a construction created to serve the purposes of the tribe and the Autori. End of chapter 3. Interesting. Can't remember. I was going to comment on something, but I forgot what it was. Let me have a little look. You are good enough, chat. Oops, bumped the mic, sorry. It's a little stretch. what I might do is I might take a short 3-minute break and run the ads so we don't get pre-rolls again. But instead of running clips, I'm just going to run the gentle music, I guess. Not gentle music. This music. Okay. So I'll be back after 3 minutes. Here is... Oh, wait a minute. No, I wasn't going to run ads. That's right. I'm just going to take a 3-minute break. Just a couple of minutes. BRB. Hello. I'm back. I spilt water on me. It's okay. It's just a bit of water. That's rather annoying. Oh well. How do we like this Zoom chat? I can zoom out a bit if we want. There we go. That's better. Don't know why I zoomed in so much. Just trying to see if I could hide the water stain. Sneaky. Okay. I hope everyone's well. So, yes, Takeo is being taught by Muto Kenji the ways of the tribe. Oh, that's right. I wanted to mention this book has a little bit more like magical sort of stuff when it comes to the tribe and the ninja stuff. Magic was, I don't know if it still is, but it definitely was. And even though this is not Japan, it is based on Japan. Magic was very much a part of Japanese culture. From Japanese, like it's thought that the emperor is like literally magic and descended from the sun goddess. So yes. It's not, what I'm trying to say is it's not unusual, I don't think. It's just a little bit more unusual that this story has actual demonstrable magic in it. But it's not enough to become like, crazy wizards shooting fireballs at each other. It's just an explanation for the fantastic powers of the descendants of the tribe. So, we leave Takeo at the end of chapter 3, learning to become, Lord Shigeru's ward and also a member of the tribe, I guess. It's sort of not fully, but the beginnings, I think. And we go to chapter 4, where we return to Kaide. Kade. I learnt how to pronounce it last week. Kade. I'm just going to say Kade. That's her name. Now, Kade was a ward of a lord in the Middle Country and this lord was given a fief because he betrayed the Otori at the Battle of Yegahara, and so the Tohan gave him a fief, and Kade has been there since she was a very young child. And last week there was an incident where one of the guards attempted to sexually assault her, and she stabbed him in the neck immediately. And I thought it was very well written, because as soon as he tried it, she just went. And then Lord Arai, who is who's the captain of the guard, and one of Kade's supposed allies, or at least friendly acquaintances, immediately went up to her, took the knife and said, "I stabbed this guy. Anything else and we're both dead." And then she was brought before the Lord, who said, "It's high time you join this household instead of sleeping with the maids and everything," which is what she should have been in the first place, but anyway. And she stuck to the story. And the Lord decided to send Arai off somewhere else. And Kade noted that it was rather foolish because this guy was rebellious, so sending him off would basically guarantee rebellion. But the Lord doesn't seem to be a particularly astute man. So anyway, Kade brought into the household, and let's see what happens. Chapter 4. The bamboo grass had turned white-edged, and the maples had put on their brocade robes. Junko brought Kade old garments from Lady Noguchi, carefully unpicking them and resewing them with the faded parts turned inwards. As the days grew colder, she was thankful that she was no longer in the castle, running through the courtyards and up and down steps as snow fell on the frozen snow. As snow fell on frozen snow. Yeah. Her work became more leisurely. She spent her days with the Noguchi women, engaged in sewing and household crafts, listening to stories and making up poems, learning to write in women's script. But she was far from happy. Lady Noguchi found fault with everything about her. She was repelled by her left-handedness. She compared her looks unfavourably to her daughter's. She deplored her height and her thinness. She declared herself shocked by Kade's lack of education in almost everything, never admitting that this might be her fault. Yeah, I mean, it's literally her fault. She kept her as a servant rather than as a ward. Of course she's not going to know anything. In private, Junko praised Kade's pale skin, delicate limbs, and thick hair, and Kade, gazing in the mirror whenever she could, thought that maybe she was beautiful. She knew men looked at her with desire, even here in the Lord's residence, but she feared all men. Since the guard's assault on her, their nearness made her skin crawl. She dreaded the idea of marriage. Whenever a guest came to the house, she was afraid he might be her future husband. If she had come into his presence with tea or wine, her heart raced and her hands shook until Lady Noguchi decided she was too clumsy to wait on guests and must be confined to the women's quarters. She grew bored and anxious. She quarrelled with Lady Noguchi's daughters, scolded the maids over trifles, and was even irritable with Junko. "The girl must be married," Lady Noguchi declared, and to Kaide's horror, a marriage was swiftly arranged with one of Lord Noguchi's retainers. Betrothal gifts were exchanged, and she recognized the man from her audience with the Lord. Not only was he old, 3 times her age, married twice before, and physically repulsive to her, but she knew her own worth. The marriage was an insult to her and her family. She was being thrown away. She wept for nights and could not eat. A week before the wedding, messengers came in the night, rousing the residents. Lady Noguchi summoned Kaide in rage. "You are very unlucky, Lady Shirakawa. I think you must be cursed. Your betrothed husband is dead." The man, celebrating the coming end to his widowhood, had been drinking with friends, had had a sudden seizure, and had fallen stone dead into the wine cups. Kaide was sick with relief, but the second mortality was also held to be her fault. 2 men had now died on her account, and the rumour began to spread that whoever desired her courted death. She hoped it might put everyone off marrying her, but one evening, when the 3rd month was drawing to a close, and the trees were putting out bright new leaves, Junko whispered to her, "One of the Otori clan has been offered as my lady's husband." They were embroidering, and Kaide lost the swaying rhythm of the stitching and jabbed herself with the needle so hard that she drew blood. Junko quickly pulled the silk away before she stained it. "Who is he?" she asked, putting her finger to her mouth and tasting the salt of her own blood. "I don't know exactly. But Lord Aida himself is in favour, and the Tohan keen to seal the alliance with the Otori. Then they will control the whole of the middle country." "How old is he?" Kaide forced herself to ask next. "It's not clear yet, lady, but age does not matter in a husband." Kaide took up the embroidery again. White cranes and blue turtles on a deep pink background. A wedding robe. "I wish it would never be finished." "Be happy, Lady Kaide. You will be leaving here. The Otori live in Hagi, by the sea. It's an honourable match for you." "Marriage frightens me," Kaide said. "Everyone's frightened of what they don't know. But women come to enjoy it, you'll see." Junko chuckled to herself. Kaide remembered the hands of the guard, his strength, his desire, and felt revulsion rise in her. Her own hands, usually deft and quick, slowed. Junko scolded her, but not unkindly, and for the rest of the day treated her with great gentleness. A few days later she was summoned to Lord Noguchi. She had heard the tramp of horses' feet and the shouts of strange men as guests arrived, but had as usual kept out of the way. It was with trepidation that she entered the audience room, but to her surprise and joy, her father was seated in a place of honour at Lord Noguchi's side. As she bowed to the ground, she saw the delight leap into his face. She was proud that he saw her in a more honourable position now. She vowed she would never do anything to bring him sorrow or dishonour. When she was told to sit up, she tried to take a discreet look at him. His hair was thinner and greyer, his face more lined. She longed for news of her mother and sisters. She hoped she would be granted some time alone with him.
Lady Shirakawa, Lord Noguchi began, we have received an offer for you in marriage, and your father has come to give his consent.
Kaede bowed low again, murmuring, Lord Noguchi.
It is a great honor for you. It will seal the alliance between the Tohan and the Otori, and unite 3 ancient families. Lord Aida himself will attend your wedding. Indeed, he wants it to take place in Inuyama. Since your mother is not well, a relative of your family, Lady Maruyama, is going to escort you to Suwano. Your husband is to be Otori Shigeru, a nephew of the Otori lords. He and his retainers will meet you in Suwano. I don't think any other arrangements need to be made. It's all very satisfactory.
Kaide's eyes had flown to her father's face when she heard her mother was not well. She hardly took in Lord Noguchi's following words. Later she realized that the whole affair had been arranged with the least possible inconvenience and expense to himself. Some robes for travel and to be married in, possibly a maid to accompany her. Truly, he had come out of the whole exchange well. He was joking now about the dead guard. The colour rose in Kaide's face. Her father's eyes were cast down. I'm glad he lost a man over me, she thought savagely. May he lose 100 more. Damn, okay. Her father was to return home the following day, his wife's illness preventing a longer stay. In his expansive mood, Lord Noguchi urged him to spend time with his daughter. Kaede led her father to the small room overlooking the garden. The air was warm, heavy with the sense of spring. A bush warbler called from the pine tree. Junko served them tea. Her courtesy and attentiveness lightened her father's mood. I am glad you have one friend here, Kaede, he murmured. What is the news of my mother? She said anxiously. I wish it were better. I fear the rainy season will weaken her further. But this marriage has lifted her spirits. The Otori are a great family, and Lord Shigeru, it seems, a fine man. His reputation is good. He is well liked and respected. It's all we could have hoped for you. More than we could have hoped. Then I am happy with it, she said, lying to please him. He gazed out at the cherry blossoms, each tree heavy, dreaming in its own beauty. Kaede, the matter of the dead guard. It was not my fault, she said hastily. Captain Arai acted to protect me. All the fault was with the dead man. He sighed. They are saying that you are dangerous to men, that Lord Otori should beware. Nothing must happen to prevent this wedding. Do you understand me, Kaede? If it does not go ahead, if the fault can be laid on you, we are all as good as dead. Kaede bowed, her heart heavy. Her father was like a stranger to her. It's been a burden on you to carry the safety of our family for all these years. Your mother and your sisters miss you. I myself would have had things differently if I could choose over again. Maybe if I had taken part in the Battle of Yegahara and had not waited to see who would emerge the victor, but had joined Aida from the start. But it's all past now, and cannot be brought back. In his way, Lord Noguchi has kept his side of the bargain. You are alive. You are to make a good marriage. I know you will not fail us now. Father, she said, as a small breeze blew suddenly through the garden, and the pink and white petals drifted like snow to the ground. The next day her father left. Kaede watched him ride away with his retainers. They had been with her family since before her own birth, and she remembered some of them by name. Her father's closest friend, Shoji, and young Amano, who was only a few years older than she was. After they had left through the castle gate, the horses' hooves crushing the cherry blossoms that carpeted the shallow cobbled steps, she ran to the bailey to watch them disappear along the banks of the river. Finally, the dust settled. The town dogs quietened, yes, and they were gone. The next time she saw her father, she would be a married woman, making the formal return to her parents' home. Kaede went back to the residence, scowling to keep her tears at bay. Her spirits were not improved by hearing a stranger's voice. Someone was chatting away to Junko. It was the sort of chat that she most despised, in a little girl voice with a high-pitched giggle. She could just imagine the girl, tiny, with round cheeks like a doll, a small stepped walk like a bird's, and a head that was always bobbing and bowing. When she hurried into the room, Junko and the strange girl were working on her clothes, making the last adjustments, folding and stitching. The Noguchi were losing no time in getting rid of her. Bamboo baskets and Polonia wood boxes stood ready to be packed. Polonia, that's an interesting word. Bang, Polonia. Probably a type of wood. Any number of the genus Polonia, comprising deciduous flowering trees native to Asia. There you go. The sight of them upset Kaede further. What is this person doing here? She demanded irritably. The girl flattened herself to the floor, overdoing it as Kaede had known she would. This is Shizuka, Junko said. She is to travel with Lady Kaede to Inuyama. I don't want her, Kaede replied. I want you to come with me. Lady, it's not possible for me to leave. Lady Noguchi would never permit it. Then tell her to send someone else. Shizuka, still face down on the ground, gave what sounded like a sob. Kaede, sure that it was feigned, was unmoved. You are upset, lady. The news of the marriage, your father's departure. Junko tried to placate her. She's a good girl,
very pretty, very clever. Sit up, Shizuka. Let Lady Shirakawa look at you.
The girl raised herself, but did not look directly at Kaede. From her downcast eyes, tears trickled. She sniffled once or twice.
Lady, please don't send me away. I'll do anything for you. I swear, you'll never have anyone look after you better than me. I'll carry you in the rain. I'll let you warm your feet on me in the cold.
Her tears seemed to have dried, and she was smiling again.
You didn't warn me how beautiful Lady Shirakawa is, she said to Junko. No wonder men die for her.
Don't say that, Kaede cried. She walked angrily to the doorway. 2 gardeners were cleaning leaves off the moss, one by one.
I'm tired of having it said of me. It will always be said, Junko remarked. It is part of the lady's life now. I wish men would die for me, Shizuka laughed. But they just seem to fall in and out of love with me as easily as I do with them.
Kaede did not turn around. The girl shuffled on her knees to the boxes and began folding the garments again, singing softly as she did it. Her voice was clear and true. It was an old ballad about the little village in the pine forest, the girl, the young man. Kaede thought she recalled it from her childhood. It brought clearly into her mind the fact that her childhood was over, that she was to marry a stranger, that she would never know love. Maybe people in villages could fall in love, but for someone in her position it was not even to be considered. She strode across the room and, kneeling next to Shizuka, took the garment roughly from her. If you're going to do it properly.
Yes, lady.
Shizuka flattened herself again, crushing the robes around her.
Thank you, lady. You'll never regret it.
As she sat up again, she murmured, People say Lord Arai takes a great interest in Lady Shirakawa. They talk of his regard for her honour. Do you know Arai? Kaede said sharply.
I'm from his town, lady, from Kumamoto.
Junko was smiling broadly.
I can say goodbye with a calm mind if I know you have Shizuka to look after you.
So, Shizuka became part of Kaede's life, irritating and amusing her in equal measures. She loved gossip, spread rumours without the least concern, was always disappearing into the kitchens, the stables, the castle, and coming back bursting with stories. She was popular with everyone and had no fear of men. As far as Kaede could see, they were more afraid of her, in awe of her teasing words and sharp tongue. On the surface, she appeared slapdash, but her care of Kaede was meticulous. She massaged away her headaches, brought ointments made of herbs and beeswax to soften her creamy skin, plucked her eyebrows into a more gentle shape. Kaede came to rely on her, and eventually to trust her. Despite herself, Shizuka made her laugh, and she brought her for the first time into contact with the outside world from which Kaede had been isolated. So Kaede learned of the uneasy relationships between the clans, the many bitter grudges left after Yegahara, the alliances Aida was trying to form with the Otori, and the seishu, the constant to and fro of men vying for position and preparing once again for war. She also learned for the first time of the hidden, Aida's persecution of them, and his demands that his allies should do the same. She had never heard of such people, and thought at first that Shizuka was making them up. Then, one evening, Shizuka, uncharacteristically subdued, whispered to her that men and women had been found in a small village and brought to Noguchi in basket cages. They were to be hung from the castle walls until they died of hunger and thirst. The crows pecked at them while they were still alive. Why? What crime did they commit? She questioned. They say there is a secret God who sees everything and who they cannot offend or deny. They would rather die. Kaede shivered. Why does Lord Aida hate them so? Shizuka glanced over her shoulder, even though they were alone in the room. They say the secret God will punish Aida in the afterlife. But Aida is the most powerful lord in the 3 countries. He can do what he wants. They have no right to judge him. The idea that a lord's actions should be judged by ordinary village people was ludicrous to Kaede. The hidden believe that their God sees everyone as equal. There are no lords in their God's eyes, only those who believe in him, and those who do not. Kaede frowned. No wonder Aida wanted to stamp them out. She would have asked more, but Shizuka changed the subject. Lady Maruyama is expected any day now. Then we will begin our journey. It will be good to leave this place of death, Kaede said. Death is everywhere. Shizuka took the comb and with long, even strokes ran it through Kaede's hair. Lady Maruyama is a close relative of yours. Did you meet her when you were a child? If I did, I don't remember it. She is my mother's cousin, I believe, but I know very little about her. Have you met her? I have seen her, Shizuka said with a laugh. People like me don't really meet people like her. Tell me about her, Kaede said. As you know, she owns a large domain in the southwest. Her husband and her son are both dead, and her daughter, who would inherit, is a hostage in Inuyama. It is well known that the lady is no friend to the Tohan, despite her husband being of that clan. Her stepdaughter is married to Aida's cousin. There were rumors that after her husband's death, her family had her son poisoned. First, Aida offered his brother to her in marriage, but she refused him. Now they say he himself wants to marry her. Surely he is married already and has a son, Kaede interrupted. None of Lady Aida's other children has survived beyond childhood, and her health is very poor. It might fail at any time. In other words, he might murder her, Kaede thought, but did not dare say it. Anyway, Shizuka went on, Lady Maruyama will never marry him, so they say, and she will not allow her daughter to either. She makes her own decisions about who she will marry? She sounds like a powerful woman. Maruyama is the last of the great domains to be inherited through the female line, Shizuka explained. This gives her more power than other women. And then she has other powers that seem almost magic. She bewitches people to get her own way.
Do you believe such things? How else can you explain her survival? Her late husband's family, Lord Aida, and most of the Tohan would crush her, but she survives, despite having lost her son to them and seeing them hold her daughter. Kaede felt her heart twist in sympathy. Why do women have to suffer this way? Why don't we have the freedom men have? It's the way the world is, Shizuka replied. Men are stronger and not held back by feelings of tenderness or mercy. Women fall in love with them, but they do not return that love. I will never fall in love, Kaede said. Better not to, Shizuka agreed and laughed. She prepared the beds, and they lay down to sleep. Kaede thought for a long time about the lady who held power like a man, the lady who had lost a son and as good as lost a daughter. She thought of the girl, hostage in the Aida stronghold at Inuyama, and pitied her. I thought she would have sympathized. Lady Noguchi's reception room was decorated in the mainland style. The doors and screens painted with scenes of mountains and pine trees. Kaede disliked all the pictures, finding them heavy, their gold leaf flamboyant and ostentatious, save the one farthest to the left. This was of 2 pheasants, so lifelike that they looked as if they might suddenly take flight. Their eyes were bright, their heads cocked. They listened to the conversation in the room with more animation than most of the women who knelt before Lady Noguchi. On the lady's right sat the visitor, Lady Maruyama. Lady Noguchi made a sign to Kaede to approach a little closer. She bent to the floor and listened to the 2-tongued words being spoken above her head. Of course we are distraught at losing Lady Kaede. She has been like our own daughter, and we hesitate to burden Lady Maruyama. We ask only that Kaede be allowed to accompany you as far as Suwano. There the Otori lords will meet her. Lady Shirakawa is to be married into the Otori family? Kaede liked the low, gentle voice she heard. She raised her head very slightly so she could see the lady's small hands folded in her lap. Yes, to Lord Otori Shigeru, Lady Noguchi purred. It is a great honour. Of course, my husband is very close to Lord Aida, who himself desires the match. Kaede saw the hands clench until the blood drained from them. After a pause, so long it was almost impolite, Lady Maruyama said, Lord Otori Shigeru, Lady Shirakawa is fortunate indeed. The lady has met him? I have never had that pleasure. I know Lord Otori very slightly, Lady Maruyama replied. Sit up, Lady Shirakawa. Let me see your face. Kaede raised her head. You are so young, the older woman exclaimed. I am 15, lady. Only a little older than my daughter. Lady Maruyama's voice was thin and faint. Kaede dared to look in the dark eyes with their perfect shape.
The pupils were dilated as if in shock, and the lady's face was whiter than any powder could have made it. Then she seemed to regain some control over herself. A smile came to her lips, though it did not reach her eyes. What have I done to her? Kaede thought in confusion. She had felt instinctively drawn to her. She thought Shizuka was right. Lady Maruyama could get anyone to do anything for her. Her beauty was faded, it was true, but somehow the faint lines round the eyes and mouth simply added to the character and strength of her face. Now the coldness of her expression wounded Kaede deeply. She doesn't like me, the girl thought, with an overwhelming sense of disappointment. End of chapter 4. Let me have a quick look. Or, I don't know, Chad, I think it might be a short stream today. That is way too long, that chapter. And besides, I need to go to bed tonight. Yeah, that chapter is a whole stream by itself. Right, so I will pick up with chapter 5 tomorrow night. I hope folks notice that I've made a couple of little additions. I've put the book name down the bottom right hand corner, and I've put a little non-binary heart in the bottom left corner, because, I don't know, people just not getting the message, I don't think. But that's okay. Yeah, it takes patience. Let's see, I'm following someone called Bambi, and I don't know why. This is one of the problems with Twitch, is that when you follow someone, you can't leave a note for yourself, or you can't, identify why you followed them. Like, why am I following Bambi? Is it, did I like their stream at one point? Did I follow them because someone else asked me to? I don't know. I can't tell. I wonder if I could get a browser extension to do that. Yeah. Okay, time for a random shout out of the day. Who are we going to shout out? Someone who is on my list. I think I might just give a quick shout out to, yeah, why not? Shout out to Melfi Coral, who is a ASMR person, lovely ASMR person, who is, I want to say Spanish, I'm not sure. She speaks Spanish, I think. And she does, actual ASMR. You know what I mean when I say actual ASMR. I mean with the microphone and everything, and the whispering and the sounds and the tapping and stuff like that. So I'm going to give a shout out to Melfi.
Glory to you and your house.
Glory to you, Melvi. Although she has black hair most of the time. Alright, we're going to raid Ari. Here's the raid command. I'd love it if you could join me for the raid and then go wherever you want to go. If you're still in bed asleep, that's fine. You just keep sleeping. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here and enjoying my stream. I very much appreciate it. It gives me a chance to practice my speaking. Tomorrow, I'm going to be reading again, Chapter 5 of Across the Nightingale Floor. And I'm having lunch with an old friend tomorrow, so that should be nice. So yeah, hopefully it's a good day tomorrow, and hopefully I get some sleep tonight, because I have not been well. I don't know why. But yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. I very much appreciate you. Okay, I will see you tomorrow.